Hello, welcome and good afternoon. I think we'll get started. I am Isabel Silver, Director of Instruction and Outreach at Smathers Libraries. And I'm really happy to introduce this program, Know the Limits, Healthy Relationships, Safety, and Resources. This program has been provided as a collaboration between several university units and also the community as well. So joining Smathers Libraries, we also have the UF Police Department and the UF Counseling and Wellness Center. And we have another visitor, Strive, that has a table here and some nice handouts too. And so I hope you check their literature. It's Strive to End Interpersonal Violence. And so I hope you do stop in at the table and pick up a lot of very helpful, informative brochures. And also from our community, we have Peaceful Paths, Domestic Abuse Network. And I would be remiss if I didn't point out that, of course, Smathers Libraries offers materials on this subject, and we offer materials from many different perspectives. And I have a sampling of books here for your perusal. So please feel free to check them out after the program, and if you'd like to check any out, I'd be glad to help you. And just as a sampling, we have one here that is about intimate partner violence, reflections on experience, theory, and policy, tackling men's violence in families. This one looks really sad and interesting. If I Am Missing or Dead, a sister's story of love, murder, and liberation. And also policing domestic violence, which some of our panelists might actually be interested in. So we have a wide range of materials on this subject. And if you'll notice, on the flyer, we also have a link to a guide to resources, electronic guide to resources on domestic violence. So please check out the library materials and resources, and we're here to help. Now, the purpose of this program is really twofold. First, we want to introduce you to the many resources available in your community, that is the campus community and the local community of Gainesville. And secondly, we want to convey to you important information about close relationships that should be supportive and positive, but sometimes go wrong. And importantly, at the end of our program of presentations, we have a panel here who is here to take individual questions, and it's a great opportunity to ask questions, have a discussion and dialogue about this issue. So, without any further delay, let me go ahead and introduce our first presentation with Desiree Howell. Did I pronounce that correctly? Oh, good. And Jeannie Latimer, who are from the UF Counseling and Wellness Center, and they're going to talk on healthy relationships. Thank you.
All right. That's okay. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming out at 3 o'clock on a Wednesday. So, I am going to be talking about healthy relationships, and I'm going to make sure that I keep it about healthy relationships in this short amount of time because we have all these other great panel members that'll be talking about different aspects and unhealthy relationships. So, I think it might be best if we go ahead and chat a little bit about healthy relationships, and then maybe I'll end it with kind of plugging the CWC resources and what we have to offer over at the Counseling Center. So, how do you know you're in a healthy relationship? Go ahead. Oh, sorry, you and then, yeah.
You would feel comfortable with that person. There's some level of trust.
Okay, so feeling comfortable and trust. Okay, yep.
I think it's about communication, whether you
so mutual respect and mutual safe communication. Okay, definitely. I'm definitely going to come back to these. Other ways that you know that you're in a healthy relationship or you feel like this is a good thing, this is positive. Mm-hmm.
You feel valued and respected.
Yes. Yep. You feel valued, you feel respected. I'm going to ask for examples for some of these, so if you guys want to get the wheels turning now. I saw a hand over here though first. So did somebody else? Oh, yeah. Yes, willingness to compromise. And work out differences when there is conflict.
And sometimes when people are in a relationship, they tend to change, but if you change in a positive way, I feel that's a positive relationship. But if you change in a negative way, then the relationship probably is not that healthy.
Okay, so being able to be flexible and be supportive of someone else when they are improving or changing for the better. So almost that mutual growth. You can grow with them. Okay, yeah.
You maintain your identity. You don't let it take over your life.
So that, yeah, so you can have your own separate identity, again, where you feel valued and respected. Yeah, these are really, really good characteristics. So, I guess I'm starting to think about examples. I'd like to talk about maybe concrete, like visual or feeling kind of examples. So respect was mentioned. And sometimes respect is one of those words similar to trust that I don't know if it's overused, but we use the word respect a lot. And so I want us to be careful that we don't lose the meaning of that or what that looks like. So could I get some examples of what does it look like or feel like when you're respected by someone else?
Not like your significant other doesn't like publicly belittle you or like make you feel like bad about yourself. Well, like not even publicly, just in general.
Right. So part of respect is not ridiculing, not belittling. I'm going to throw in there name calling, not intentionally trying to emotionally hurt you. Yeah, I think that would be a good way to sort of characterize respect for someone else. Any other sort of concrete example when you feel respected by someone or you know how to you're showing respect for someone? Yeah, okay, so valuing their opinion. So you're respecting that they're, and I think this goes back to some of the other examples too, respecting them as an individual, your own person with opinions, even if you disagree, right? So respectfully disagreeing too. Okay, yeah, I think those are really good examples. And so I'm not sure if you would all agree that those are good concrete examples, but on another level, you can almost feel whether or not you're respected by someone. Whether a romantic significant other or a friend or a professor or anyone, you can, at some level, you can sort of feel if you're being respected or not. Okay. So another sort of vague term, or could be a vague term, trust. That word we use a lot. I'm wondering, as far as your guys' definitions, or when you think of trust, what do you think of when you trust someone? What does that mean for you?
For me, it's like when I'm in trouble, who's the first person I think of asking for help? Or
Okay.
like if I'm in a situation where I feel like I did something really stupid and I can just tell like I acted really dumb, who would I feel comfortable telling that to?
Okay, so who would you feel comfortable turning to, sort of like reliability? Who can you rely on? Who can you know will be there for you? And a little bit too, what I heard was who can you trust not to judge you? Right? Who's going to just be there for you? Yeah, that's definitely a huge part of trust. So trusting someone to be there for you and trusting someone to not mistreat you, I guess, or to not judge you if you're having a hard time, make a mistake. Yeah. Other examples of trust, when you know you trust someone.
How
Right, letting your wall down, really being yourself, and not having to worry so much about that self-monitoring. What do they think of me? You know, are they judging me? What do they think? And also when I think of that visual of letting your wall down, I think of the ability to be vulnerable. So you trust that person. Okay, what does being vulnerable mean? That's not just for you, that's for anybody. So think about, what does that mean to be vulnerable with someone? Yeah, open to being hurt. Yeah, that can happen when you're vulnerable. Vulnerability is definitely a risk. What's sort of maybe a positive view of being vulnerable? Or what good could come from being vulnerable with someone? Yes, being vulnerable is one of the most powerful ways to connect with someone else. So if they can be mutually vulnerable, you can both connect, you can both share on a more intimate level. Definitely, yeah. Absolutely. The cliche that actions speak louder than words couldn't be more true with trust development, right? Somebody can say something all day long, but it doesn't really matter if their actions and behavior doesn't match up. Very true. Yeah. I'm aware of the time, so I think I'll go through just a few more sort of characteristics quickly. Communication. I feel like that's always a pretty popular buzzword with healthy relationships, or if you think about couples, communication. So that's a big topic, but when you think about healthy communication, I mean, we've already heard valuing opinions and being able to communicate with someone. So I guess what does that mean to be able to communicate? Because I'm sure everyone has someone in their life that you don't feel like you have the best communication with. So when you know it's good communication, what does that look and feel like?
Like when something happens to them, like they're able to tell you how that makes them feel, not necessarily like they don't shut down and like don't say anything about it. And then like they're upset, you're like, why are you upset? And like they will tell you.
Mm-hmm. And that takes trust, right? To be able to have that clear communication and to trust you with that information. Definitely. Yep.
Equal opportunities to be heard and listen to other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It would not be very good communication if one person did all the talking or all the listening, and yeah, so mutually and equally being able to be listened to, heard, and understood. Absolutely. Somebody else's hand was up.
To like piggyback off that person, you just talk to them, but also receive feedback, so you don't feel like you're talking to the wall, you're just like wasting breath. I think it's mostly like listening and giving that person the attention and feedback so that it's like a community.
Right. And that sort of, so when you're giving someone that space and you're really listening and you're really hearing and you're doing your best to try to give them the feedback or try to give them what they need, that does a pretty good job of communicating care and importance, right? It takes a lot of work to be a good listener and to really try to give your best when you're hearing someone. And you don't usually do that for people you don't care about. So it really communicates care and importance, and that you're special to me, you're important to me. I want to hear you, I want to understand you. Yeah. There's a lot more I could say, but we should probably stop. So just to quickly, I guess, plug the Counseling and Wellness Center services. Healthy relationships is definitely a topic that we see often, that we try to be helpful with. We have several counseling and therapy groups that revolve around relationships and sort of trying to build healthy communication styles, and learning more about how others view you and your social interactions and your interpersonal skills. We also offer workshops on Tuesdays. over at Peabody at 1240, and a lot of them revolve around relationships. And then, of course, we offer individual therapy where healthy relationships or relationships in general can be a pretty significant topic. So, Counseling and Wellness Center over on Radio Road. So, the next presenter, and this is pretty good order of healthy relationships, and then the next topic of unhealthy relationships, is going to be Laura Templeton and Debra Weiss from the UF Police Department.
Thank you, Desiree, so much for kind of starting us off on this theme, right, of what are healthy relationships, and so what does a relationship that has violence in it look like? And I'm Debbie, and this is Laura, and we are the victim advocates for UFPD, which means that we can work with anyone who is a student, faculty, staff member, and has been a victim of a crime. And so what we see in our office regularly is dating violence as well as domestic violence. So I don't know about you all, but when it comes to talking about violence, I always prefer to do it in a discussion, right? I don't want to speak at you. This is your life, your community, your experiences. So your participation is really way more valuable than what I have to say. So if we can start sort of by talking about when you are thinking about what violence in a relationship looks like, what comes up for you? And you can look at the power and control wheel that's in front of you and start there, or just whatever comes to the top of your mind. Whoever would like to begin.
I think verbally abusive, where the girl is a person and the abuser is so dominant that he wants it or she wants it her way. He doesn't let change happen. He's stuck in the same position.
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing is the verbal abuse, and part of that being manipulation and control. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So verbal abuse. What else? What are other aspects of relationship violence? Physical abuse. Absolutely. Physical abuse. And so what does that look like? If I've met somebody, how would I know that physical abuse would be going on in their relationship?
Like if somebody's not looking normal, like if it bruises or something.
Bruises, potentially in various stages of healing. Definitely.
You know, like you touch like other people.
Yeah, so behaviorally, someone may be really jumpy, definitely, or more guarded, potentially. We kind of call that hypervigilance, where you're in this state of crisis and trying to always be aware of your surroundings. Yeah.
Denial.
What does denial look like or sound then tensions build, and then violence happens, and then it's that cycle all over again. But you want to believe that this time it's going to be different. You love this person. And when you get to that courting phase, you see that person you fell in love with.
That also reminds me of how challenging it can be when that person appears so charming to everyone else, and it seems like this really nice person. And so like to tell somebody it's like risking that, well, it's risking like not being in that anymore, like committing this to yourself, but it's also risking not being believed because everyone else is thinking it's of this person.
Really scary.
Oh, and then sometimes when the victim comes down and says, oh, this person is like hitting me, and then everybody's saying, oh, you should leave him, this is bad for you. Sometimes that can push them back to the abuser because they think, oh, the abuser loves me, he understands me, nobody else understands me. And that's also dealing with control and manipulation that makes the victim feel that the only person that loves them is the
And I know you're going to hear from Whitney too, who's definitely, she's a peaceful path. She's definitely the pro in all this. But from my understanding, someone will try to leave a relationship on average 7 times.
The new statistic is actually 7 to 13.
On average. Before leaving a relationship. It's so hard to get out. Especially because isolation has become such a tactic, right? And it can start with, I don't like your friends, or your family's always in our business. It'd be really great if you stop talking to them. It's really interfering with our relationship, and this is what's most important, right? You do feel that way, right? That our relationship is most important? What kind of positions does that put you in?
Also, if the violence is emotional, there's no bruises or anything like that. You feel kind of like you're the crazy one, and the line is a lot more gray. So it's harder to pinpoint where the line is drawn. And since there's no proof, there's no likelihood that people are going to believe you even if it's not about it.
Absolutely. So when there are no broken bones, no bruises, but that emotional abuse, I mean, you've worked with people who definitely say what stays with me the longest is emotional abuse. So what does emotional abuse look like? How would we know if we were being abused emotionally?
Making your partner apologize for something that was your fault, or apologizing, or making them feel ashamed for telling you something.
So not taking responsibility, blaming you.
Some people use emotional abuse or mental abuse and threat to hurt themselves. So you leave me, I'm going to kill myself, or I'm going to do this myself. That puts the burden on the person being abused to them, even if they're not in danger.
I think on top of that, there's so many forms of manipulation that can happen in emotional abuse. It doesn't just have to be like how they feel about themselves based off what they're saying, what they can do to someone that they feel like they should be loving, but it can be like in this wheel, it like mentions it too, just like your economic needs, your children, or like your other friendships, just like there's so many things that you can use to manipulate that situation, create like this emotional scarring.
Absolutely. And thank you for bringing up the wheel. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Try not to talk too much. I think it's important to establish a distinction that there's criminal statutes that talk about violence and it identifies who's in a domestic relationship, a spouse, someone with children living in a family together, and then there's this crime.
Bruce, don't do my presentation.
What's that?
I said, don't do my
Okay,
presentation.
all kind of met as a group too before this particular presentation, and about how people, depending on what barriers they may have, can use something like, I will out you if you don't do what I want you to do. So that isn't in the wheel that's in front of you, but it's absolutely a piece of power and control. I'm aware of our time, and I hope that we get to continue having discussions like this and presentations like this. And thank you all so much for being here. Does anybody have any last thoughts about unhealthy relationships and violence in relationships before we kind of move on? Well, if you do, we'll have a panel at the end. Thank you all so much. And I would love to introduce Whitney Shadowins, who's with Peaceful Paths, to talk about some of our community resources.
So I don't get to talk about the stuff that I like to talk about all the time, which is the healthy relationships and abusive relationships. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do. I have been in Gainesville for about 9 years. I went to UF for undergrad and grad school. As an undergraduate, I had no idea that Peaceful Paths existed. Has anyone in here heard of Peaceful Paths? What do you think it is? Who do you think it's for? No one? I mean, obviously we're a domestic abuse network, but what does that mean? Anyone know? Any of our resources?
It's somewhere it's not only a place to house or people who are escaping relationships, whether it's in marriages or partnerships, but it also offers counseling services, group therapy, legal resources.
Refer out for legal resources. But they're for anyone who identifies themselves as a victim or a survivor of intimate partner violence. So it doesn't just have to be between husband and wife, it doesn't have to be if you're living with someone. It is anyone. So even students here who are in relationships are eligible for services. And we don't get that many people from the university coming out to us. But the caveat is a crime does not have to have been committed. There doesn't have to be a police report. There doesn't have to ever have been any physical violence. It is someone who is in a relationship that they feel is unhealthy and potentially abusive. They can access our services too. So I'm going to kind of go through what our services are, kind of briefly, since I don't have a lot of time. First, we have a 24-hour hotline. So this is, someone is there 24/7, holidays, any time of day. I'll say the number. I have brochures with the number on it too, but I'll tell you guys what it is. It's 352-377-8255. So this is where you can call and get information, just basic information about, I have some questions. I don't know if what I'm experiencing is abuse. Can I talk to someone about it? If you need to leave and you have nowhere safe to go, you can call and screen for emergency shelter, which I'll talk about. And you can also just call to get referrals to other agencies, like a legal referral, refer to another victim advocate that you might not know is out there. The other thing we have are residential services. So we have an emergency shelter, which if you're approved, you're guaranteed a 3-day emergency stay, but then you work with a case manager to figure out safety planning. Oh, we did that hotline too. I always forget to mention that, safety planning, what to consider, what to think about, just help you have a plan to stay safe. That is our number one concern, is always safety, and then we address other issues from there. So our shelter is meant to house people who, it's a house, it's not as scary and awful as it sounds. And it's just a safe place for you to kind of just take a break, take a moment, and figure out what your next steps are, what you want your next steps to be. We also have transitional housing, which is, it's an application process, but it's free and subsidized housing for a period of 1 to 2 years to help you kind of get back on your feet after leaving a relationship, since financial abuse is a big part of domestic violence. Then we have outreach services, which is what I do. I work at our outreach office, so I lead support groups that we have, which right now our support groups are for female identified victims. If we do have male identified victims, we work with them one-on-one and provide the same kind of curriculum that we work on in our other support groups. That's only because we don't get a lot of men reaching out to our services. I'm really grateful that there are some men in the room. You don't really see very much of it, men wanting to come and talk about this issue. But men can also be abused by women, which is not very talked about either. So it happens anyway in a relationship. It's not about size, it's not about physical force, it's about power and control. We also have children's programs, so we have support groups for children as well, which can be really beneficial. Even if children have never actually seen an incident happen, it still very much affects them. The stress between their parents or one of their parents and the other partner, they still are very much affected by it, and it also, they are more likely to either be a victim of abuse or a perpetrator of abuse in their relationships when they get older if they're raised in a home with domestic violence. We also have a restraining order assistance program at the courthouse. Restraining orders are very scary things to go and apply for. We're not lawyers, we can't give legal advice, but we can support you as you fill out the paperwork. And then we also do individual counseling. For adults, we refer out for children's counseling. All of our services are also 100% free, so you don't have to pay for anything. You get them just because you need them. We also we work in Alachua County, Bradford County, and Union County. So we serve a lot in Gainesville. Most of it is in Gainesville. But we serve other counties as well. There's only 42 centers in the entire state of Florida that are certified centers. So a lot of them have very big caseloads and a lot of people that they serve. We also have some community partnerships with the SOURCE program or the IPVAC clinic, which is the Intimate Partner Violence Assistance Clinic at the law school at UF. So we work in the community as well to provide all the kinds of services that we can. And our last thing that we do is violence prevention. So everything I've talked about has been intervention. So you're in an abusive relationship, you don't know what to do, you need help. Violence prevention is us going into the local schools and talking about it. What is abusive behavior? What's healthy behavior? What are red flags? What is appropriate? What isn't? Because if it's not talked about, it's not going to get stopped. You can't just always intervene because that helps the problem then and there. But domestic violence is a systemic problem that comes from us not really learning about healthy relationships and getting a lot of our information from sources that aren't very reliable, such as the media, television, music, all of that sort of thing. And the other thing we're doing, which is kind of new, we're still working on it, is for the queer community. So we've started a kind of it's called QUARC. We have a flyer back there on it too, which stands for Queer Anti-Violence Relationship Conversations. So because queer intimate partner violence is not talked about as much, it's basically considered a heterosexual problem. It's called wife abuse still a lot. It's not really seen as something that can affect anyone. We are doing workshop series where we have a meeting kind of like this, where we just have a conversation about all the different ways to have healthy relationships. And we discuss all kinds of relationships, not just the usual LGBT that's discussed. We talk about polyamorous relationships, asexual relationships, all forms of them, because any relationship can have power and control. And the last thing, oh no, I still have lots of time. Wow, okay. I was afraid I wasn't gonna make it through all of that in time. The other thing that we do is we're also building a program to support people who have loved ones in abusive relationships. I mean, I'm sure most of you in this room have known someone who's been in an abusive relationship at some point, and it can be really overwhelming and scary for you too. So what are the things, if you find out someone's in an abusive relationship, what are some of the things you would do to help them? Or have you done to help them? There's no right or wrong. Yeah.
I would first talk with them, first the victim, because you don't want to overstep boundaries, and you kind of need to respect them as an individual before you do anything else. And kind of see if they agree with you, if they see what you see.
Okay.
Ask more questions than anything else, because the more you try to lecture them, the more you're gonna push them away. So rather than tell them what to do, let them figure it out on their own.
Yeah, for me, it was when I was 18. I kept telling my aunt she deserves to be happy, and then all my cousins helped me. So we were all young at that time, but we understood that a man's not supposed to touch you like that. So we just encouraged her that the most important thing is that she be happy, and the rest of the family will be happy.
Those are all really good answers. I think the hardest thing is when you see it and they're in denial and don't see it. And you want to jump in and say, look at how this person is treating you. You need to get out. You need to get safe. And we sometimes want to badmouth their partner, call them names, say they're not good for you. That's actually one of the worst things you can do, and it was kind of talked about before, because it really does push that person towards their abuser. One of the most common things an abuser does is say, none of your friends like me, none of your friends can understand the love that we have, none of your family gets this. And so by doing that, you're basically reinforcing what the abuser is telling them. And because it is someone they love, regardless of whether or not that person is good for them, regardless of whether or not that person treats them well, it is something that someone that your loved one loves. And just because someone's abusing you doesn't make the love go away. You can love someone who hurts you, and it's perfectly acceptable and okay to love someone who hurts you. Your love is not causing that abuse. That's an action that they're taking that's disrespecting you and taking advantage of that love. And so it's really important to encourage them to know they can always talk to you, know that you're always there, without necessarily putting any judgment on what's happening. Another thing that's really common is when they leave the relationship, that first time, that second time, that 17th time, it's really common to want to call their abusive partner a jerk, an asshole. He's awful for you. I'm glad you left him. But when they choose to go back to that partner, which quite honestly will happen several times, the next time they choose to leave, they're probably not going to come to you because they're going to feel ashamed and they're going to feel stupid that you were right and they were wrong. And they already have enough of that going on in their relationship. So most important things is always believe them. Even if what they're telling you sounds so unbelievable, it's so hard for you to grasp, their partner seems like such a great person, believe them, validate them, listen to them. Don't ever ask for proof of what's happening. You don't see bruises, but they say they were hit, don't ask for bruises. Just, that's really awful that happened. That sounds really scary. Encouraging them that it doesn't have to have physical violence. I have a lot of people that come see me and they're like, I think I'm in an abusive relationship, but I don't really know, he's never hit me. Well, we can talk about why do you feel that you're in an abusive relationship? What's going on? What are they doing? Always assuring them that it's not their fault. It doesn't matter if they were flirting with someone else. It doesn't matter if they did come home really late and didn't call. It doesn't matter if they didn't answer the phone when he called 35 times. It doesn't matter what they did. It doesn't matter if they called him a jerk. It doesn't excuse the violence that that the abuser is doing. So just continue to tell them it's not their fault. They don't deserve this. And I think I heard that come up as well. And then when they're ready, giving them resources, giving them our phone number, our hotline number. You can call us and ask us for information for them. We can never just take your word. We'll never tell you what to do. And we always have to talk to the victim if they do want to engage in services, but you can always call and find out information. That is always welcome. You can call me, my cards are back there. I'll talk to you about the best way to support them, what you can do as well. But the most important thing, and I think someone said it, is to let them make all of their own decisions, no matter what that is. You might think they should leave, but they might not. There are lots of reasons we don't leave abusive relationships, and shame and fear are just two of them. There are hundreds of them. You could talk about it for hours. So does anyone have any specific questions? I know I went through all of that really quick about what we do. Make sure I hit on everything. Well, all of our phone numbers and resources are back there if you want any of them. So after me is Tina Lamb, who's going to talk from the UF Police Department, the RAD coordinator, to talk about rape aggression defense. Oh. Hey, Sarge, will you help me? So I brought some pictures about this program so that I could share it with you. So hopefully you'll have something interesting to look at least more interesting than me. My name is Kristina Lamb. I am the Senior Assistant Director in the Office for Student Financial Affairs. That's something that I do for money. Something that I do for love is the coordinator for the RAD program at the University of Florida Police Department. Thank you, ma'am. RAD stands for Rape Aggression Defense. We have programs for women, men, children, and seniors.
The programs are broken up by gender based on the kind of violence those people are most likely to encounter in their lives. What children need to know about violence is very different than the kind of violence seniors face. The kind of relationship violence that men and women experience and their fears of what might happen to them are very different as well. So for the women's program, which is what I'm here to talk about today, the main reason that women take this class is because they say, I'm constantly afraid walking in my car. I actually had a woman say, I don't have a big, strong man to protect me, so I need this. The reason that a lot of women end up in a physical defense program is because we're trained really early on as women that when it comes to our safety, we need to rely on somebody else. Go with a man, go with your brother, go with a boyfriend, get a dog, get a gun, get an alarm system. And the underlying message kind of all that is that as women, we are not enough, that our bodies are naturally a vulnerability, and that we are unable physically to defend ourselves if we needed to do that. So the goal in the RAD class is to try to combat that way that we've been raised, that tendency to believe that we need to rely on other people when it comes to our safety. So rape aggression is a whole range of behaviors that are controlling. So what do you think some rape aggression behaviors might be? I will wait you out.
What do you mean, the stalker?
Well, what is a behavior that someone might exhibit toward you that would make you afraid that sexual battery might be a likely outcome? Stalking? What else?
Like they're trying to isolate you.
Sure. What else? Physically controlling, right? Not just, physically controlling, maybe mental or emotional control, right? Restricting your freedom or ability to leave when you want to, whether or not it's physical, right? Taking away your freedom to leave. So there are all kinds of different behaviors that can fall into this category of rape aggression, particularly false imprisonment and kidnapping, not letting you leave when you want to, not letting someone have that freedom of movement, almost always precipitate that sexual assault, because that's something, one of those pre-incident kind of things. So rape aggression, women come to this class and they think it's only about rape, but the reality of it is it's addressing a variety of behaviors that we experience as women. And there's that continuum of annoying touching from someone I don't want touching my body, all the way up to very dangerous, physically moving me, physically restraining me. So in the RAD program, we teach them about a defensive mindset. You are valuable, you are worth protecting. Nobody has the right to hurt you. We give them realistic safety strategies that they can implement in their everyday lives. So as much opportunity as we can remove for someone to target them as the victim of any kind of crime, not just sexual assault in nature, but any kind of crime, can help make them feel safer. We dispel myths about sexual assault and violence between an intimate partner or from a stranger, because that's something definitely that still unfortunately persists in our society. That women are selected as targets for sexual battery because of the way they look, that if they've given consent to an encounter in the past, that consent carries forward, that they don't have the right to stop a sex act once it begins. So they're all things that we kind of address so that we can dispel those myths for them. We talked briefly about unhealthy versus healthy relationships and about how to help a friend, because that's really important. We know statistically, the likelihood that we encounter a survivor in our everyday lives is very high. So we try to give them a basic information of what to do if someone discloses to them that they are the survivor of an attack. The physical defense techniques, their body is the weapon. So many women have been told, use some kind of weapon, get pepper spray, carry a gun, carry a knife, and have no training on it. Your female body is so powerful. So we teach them how you can use this that you have with you all the time. Even when you're in the shower, you can take it on a plane. So you can use that as a defensive tool if you find yourself in a violent encounter. Okay, we do cover self-defense in the law, because that's a really important thing to talk about. So like someone brought up earlier, not everything that is one of those actions that takes away our freedom or ability to leave is necessarily meets the definition of a crime. But we still want to address those controlling behaviors because they're not okay. So part of that is also talking to them about boundaries in relationships. Whether it's with a coworker, a friend, someone that they have intimate encounters with, whatever. That it's okay to set a boundary. You get to decide what happens to you and your body. You have control over this. So what that ends up doing for the women in this class is that it gives them self-reliance. We help undo some of that social programming that we've been given as women that says that we need to rely on someone else and lets us be in control. We also give them a self-realization of their physical power. Women, we are very strong. Most of us have had a male figure in our lives, a brother, a cousin, someone well-intentioned who at some point in our lives when we were young wanted to wrestle with us or play fight. So you've been there where you've been in a situation, maybe not a dangerous one, where you felt physically helpless. Or you've had a male person in your life try to teach you what physical defense technique he would use. The female body is built very differently than a man's body. Our center of gravity is a lot lower. We carry a lot of power in our lower body. So the techniques we teach are designed specifically for women. We get a lot of feedback about this class. And I brought with me, I got permission to use this, and I just want to read it to you. Because women come to this class with a lot of fear. It's not uncommon for a woman to have, almost on a daily basis, a concern for her safety. Walking to your car at night, you're by yourself at home and you hear a sound, you get that surge of adrenaline thinking, something going to happen to me. Is there someone here? So I want to share this with you. Before I came to UF for graduate school, I was a survivor of sexual assault at the hands of someone I knew and trusted. I never reported the crime. I really just can't find the words to express to you how much this class has changed my life. Until you experience the burden of debilitating self-doubt and fear on a daily basis, you can't understand how free I now feel. I feel in control, and that's more valuable to me than anything else I've learned at this university. RAD isn't just about having the skills to escape an attack, because hopefully most of us will never have to. RAD is about making conscious, informed choices for your own safety and feeling empowered to live life on your own terms. So that assertiveness, the confidence, the belief now that your body is not a vulnerability. Women who leave this class often change their whole body image. They'll look at themselves and they'll think, well, I have these really wide hips, and now that I've had this class, I realize this gives me an advantage. I can harness this power. This body that I have is not something to look at with a critical eye. It's something I can be proud of. And that physical strength, understanding of her physical strength, the owning her own voice, starting to make decisions for herself, that affects every part of her life. She goes to work more confident, more likely in a classroom setting to speak up, to voice a dissenting opinion on something, to be assertive in relationships, and to pass that on to the women she encounters in life, to friends, later to her children, that this is what's acceptable for me. This is what our boundaries, this is what a relationship should look like. So hopefully the women in here will decide to take this class, and the men will share this information with the women in their lives. Okay? It's kind of overwhelming. It can be a little intimidating to think about going to a self-defense class. But this program, participation in every part of it is voluntary. We're not going to make anyone do anything they don't want to do. We have instructors that give both a civilian and a law enforcement viewpoint, so they can benefit and work with the instructor they feel most comfortable working with. The women in the class get to see, because as instructors, we try to model positive, healthy relationships even when we work with each other. So before we go to demonstrate a technique or a choke, a male instructor will ask me, is it okay if I do this? Are you ready? Is this all right? So we try to take the opportunity as much as possible to model positive relationships and asking for permission. The women in the class benefit from hearing what other women say. We encourage them to have dialogue. This is what I've done. This is what I could try. We encourage them when they ask questions. I don't like to answer them. I want them to work it out for themselves. So that instead of me teaching them something and they go home and they think, I need to do this thing now, they can view their safety as something that, okay, there's a continuum here. I could do X, Y, and Z and avoid the situation entirely, or I can choose to go to this place and to mitigate something that might be dangerous, I'm going to take this step. So we want them to continue to make those decisions for themselves. The most important thing that they get, especially for our freshman women on campus, because it's a very dangerous time, this first 6 months that they're here, is that they get to form lasting, close relationships with other women on campus, that they get to know very well in that class. So the last thing is that this class is a lot of fun. We keep this class light in some ways because we're dealing with such a serious topic. We teach defense against chokeholds, if you have an attacker on top of you, how to throw them off so you can escape. So we do a lot of encouraging the women to support each other. They do a lot of self-care. We talk to them before they leave, if you're stressed out, if you're feeling anxious, these are resources on campus. You know, we encourage them to make use of them, not just campus and local resources, but also national ones like RAIN, and what volunteer opportunities they are, because once women take this class, they are really excited to share what they know. So it's a very awesome opportunity for women on campus, and it is absolutely free thanks to the University of Florida Police Department. So there are flyers at the back, and I hope that you will take them, share them, litter them somewhere, so that someone else can find that information and have access to it. Okay, and I'm going to turn it over to Sergeant Kristy Sasser from the University of Florida Police Department.
All right, while this loads, my name is Kristy Sasser. I am a sergeant with the University of Florida Police Department. I am in the Community Services Division. I'm actually one of the RAD instructors as well. Now I'm going to talk more about the legal side of domestic violence, dating violence, what a law enforcement response is going to be, and what our legal requirements are. Okay, so first of all, our initial response, whenever we get a call of domestic violence or a case with violence, we're going to send more than one officer. We're going to have backup there because these incidents are going to be one of the most dangerous for us. Domestic violence calls and traffic stops are the most violent for us, or I'm sorry, the most dangerous for us. So we're always going to make sure that we have backup there immediately, readily available to help keep our officers safe. Then when we get there, we're going to want to make sure that everyone is safe. So we'll either ask to go inside or ask for everyone to come outside. And we'll want to separate everyone to make sure that they're safe and to see if there are any weapons on any of the people, to see if they have any medical injury or physical injuries that they need medical assistance for. If we do come inside, we're going to want to be in a safe location. So a lot of times it's going to mean not the kitchen, because I mean, we all know in the kitchen there's knives, there's hot stove, there's pans and stuff like that. So we want to stay away from that area. If we do see weapons in a room, we may avoid that room. We may go get those weapons depending on what the situation is. If it's a butter knife, we might not want to go in that room, might not take it, but we'll just avoid that area. We'll also notify our victim advocates, Debbie and Laura for the UF Police Department, and then we'll determine if a crime occurred. So in order to do that, I'll go over what the legal definition is for domestic violence. And as Bruce said, violence by legal definition in domestic violence is going to be different from what you see on the power and control wheel. So domestic violence is violence towards one family or household member by another who is or was residing in the same single dwelling unit. So that can be spouses or former spouses. So this is going to include former relationships as well. Spouses or former spouses, persons who are related by blood or marriage, persons who live together as a family, maybe aren't currently married, but they're residing together as a family, people who have resided together in the past as a family, and people who have a child in common. Now for dating violence, this is violence between individuals who have or have had a continuing and significant relationship of a romantic vague. So we'll go into how we determine what is a romantic or intimate relationship. So what we look at is whether or not the relationship existed within the past 6 months. It didn't have to be the entire 6 months, it just existed within the past 6 months. So it was a relatively recent relationship. The nature of the relationship characterized by the expectation of affection or sexual involvement. So that's where we get a further definition of what makes this an intimate relationship. And then the frequency and type of between the persons was involved in the relationship must have included the persons have been involved over time and on a continuous basis. So it's not, we went on one date. It's over a period of time, and it was a continuous basis. So you were meeting together regularly, and it's going to be just a casual acquaintance. So violence, we usually think of as physical hitting, punching, battery, violence, which is the threat of the physical violence. Stalking or cyber stalking, kidnapping, false imprisonment, or any other criminal offense that results in physical injury or death. So now our by law, if we determine that there is domestic or dating violence occurring, we have to arrest the perpetrator of violence. So state law says we shall arrest the perpetrator. Not up to us. We shall arrest the perpetrator. It's not up to the victim. If the victim does not want the person to be arrested, it's not their choice. State law still says we have to arrest the perpetrator of violence. We cannot use any type of mediation. So it used to be you'd show up to a domestic violence case and you would tell one of the partners, why don't you go blow off some steam, go for a walk, and that would be it. That is not legally allowed. We have to act and make sure that whoever was the perpetrator of violence is arrested and removed from that area, removed from that situation. So if a law enforcement officer believes that 2 or more people have committed domestic violence, then we have to determine who the primary aggressor was. It's preferred that we not arrest 2 people. If we do find that there was mutual combatants, meaning that both people were fighting, we may arrest one person and then do what's called a sworn complaint for the other person. So this essentially is saying we're sending the paperwork to the state attorney's office, and then they can follow through on the charges as they wish, but this person will physically go to jail that night. But the preferred response is to arrest the primary aggressor. So when we're looking at determining who the primary aggressor is, we're going to look at a couple of different factors. So who's injured and how badly are they injured? Does one person have a broken arm and one person have a black eye? The fear of physical injury because of past or current threats. Any actions taken in self-defense, either for themselves or defense of a family member. The history of violence and existence of a previous order for protection. The size and weight differences, what they were arguing about, who called for help, and whether or not anybody was using drugs or alcohol at the time. And like I said, we, by law, are required to arrest. So some things that people may think, but what if this? These things cannot deter an arrest. So if the victim doesn't want it, if the suspect lives on premises or not where it occurred, the absence of a court-ordered injunction, so they don't have a protection order, any potential financial consequences. A lot of times, we talked about this power and control and how there is that financial abuse. So there's that fear of, if this person goes to jail, where am I going to get my financial income? How are we going to be able to pay to get this person out of jail? Victim's emotional state, any verbal assurances that the violence will cease. Because again, we talked about how they may make promises, oh, I'm so sorry, I'll never do it again, but there's that cycle. The speculation that the arrest may not lead to conviction or that the victim may not follow through. Sometimes the victim chooses not to follow through, but that does not matter in our decision making. The location of the incident and if there's mutual violence. We're also required to write a report for any incident of domestic or dating violence or any call that we get that is maybe some other type of disturbance between people in a dating or domestic relationship. So sometimes we'll get a call of domestic or dating violence. We'll get on scene and people have been arguing and there's not any physical violence. There's nothing there legally for us to arrest on, but we know that there's so much more to domestic violence and dating violence. So we write a report so that we can still show and track the progress of what's going on. We still have record of what has happened to this person. But our report has to include some very specific stuff. So sometimes we will ask some very personal, detailed questions. But some things that we will want to look at is whether or not there are physical injuries. And we do know that just because someone says that they were punched, we don't see bruises, it doesn't mean they weren't punched. Sometimes you don't see injuries right away with strangulation. Sometimes you don't see injuries at all. Statements from everyone involved. Determining the relationship. So in a dating relationship, we'll have to ask, what was the intimacy between you? How long have you dated? When was the last time you dated? So it's more personal questions. Alcohol or drug use, whether it was previously or currently, any history of violence, as well as the suspect's criminal history, and then what our decision was for arresting. So if we arrested the primary aggressor, if we didn't make an arrest because we determined, there was no violence per state law, so we didn't make an arrest, but we still have that report, or if we arrested 2 or more parties. So those things were all required to be in our report. Just to give you an idea of what we've responded to through the UF Police Department, this is for 2013 only so far, so we're not even through the year, and this is only for a UFPD. We've had 6 domestic disputes. So these are going to be, we got a call of some type of domestic disturbance, and we don't have incidents of violence per state statute, but we still need to document it. So 4 of those were at the Shands Hospital, and 2 of them were on campus. Other campus could be just anything other than housing. And then for domestic violence, we've had 14 cases of assault or battery, and then 4 cases of stalking. Also for dating, and this is something that we see a little more often being on a college campus, we've had 14 dating disputes, and we've had 10 batteries amongst people in dating relationships, and then 1 stalking case. So you can see this is something that we do deal with the UF Police Department. A lot of people think that we don't see this on campus, but you can see already from 2013 that we've seen multiple cases of this. All right. That's it for me. Yes?
Okay, you said there were 10 batteries on campus. Does the perpetrator get expelled from UF, or?
When we arrest someone for a crime, and if they are a student, we refer them to student conduct and conflict resolution, and then it's in their hands. Do you want to speak to that?
Often, yes. It depends on the facts of the situation. The question was, do they get expelled? They'll be typically suspended or expelled depending on partly the cooperation of the victim. So if we don't have any witnesses, the victim says, I don't want to participate, I don't want anything to happen, then our hands are tied just like the legal systems can be. But if they are actively participating and there's enough evidence to hold the person responsible, so our decision point is a little different than everybody up here because we actually do have to weigh evidence. But it's based on a preponderance of the evidence that we think, yes, this was a violent situation, violence occurred, then typically the consequence is a suspension or expulsion. And that's the case.
Okay, and now we can open up any questions for.
To the panel? Okay.
And I'm aware too, there's some members on our panel who have not spoken yet in this presentation, so I'm wondering if we can take a few minutes to have them introduce themselves too.
Lovely, and if you'd like to use this microphone.
My name is Teresa Drake, and I'm the director of the Intimate Partner Violence Assistance Clinic, or on campus we're known as the SOURCE program. And we are a legal team out of the College of Law, and we can represent students. We've had, our only requirement is that you be a survivor of intimate partner violence. So I know there was talk about what happens if you call law enforcement and the protocol and the response of law enforcement. We find many students who don't want to call law enforcement because they're afraid to get their batter in trouble. They're afraid he's going to lose his bright future scholars and get expelled from school, and then the shame and the attention that they'll get because they believe that they would have caused that cascade of events. So a lot of the cases we handle are survivors who want their partner to stay away from them but don't want to call law enforcement. And so that can involve getting civil order of protection or an injunction, as it's called here in Florida. All of our services are confidential, so once a survivor comes to us and asks us to represent her in civil court on an injunction, we not only don't have a requirement to notify UF, we are not allowed to notify UF. Now, it is a public hearing, so I'm not going to say they might never find out, but again, it's completely up to the survivor whether she wants to file the injunction, what happens after that. And so we represent her. We fill out the paperwork, we go to court with her. She's our client. We've had some very interesting injunctions that we've done with students. We've had several students who don't want the injunction to affect their batter's ability to continue classes and graduate. So we've developed these very, very complicated injunctions where we've literally blown up the map of campus with his schedule, and he's got classes in these buildings at this time. Here's where he can park, here's the bus route he can take, and then other than those times and those routes and those buildings, he's not to be on campus, so that the survivor can continue to go to her classes and feel like she's safe and she's not going to see him. And if he violates that, it's very clear to law enforcement that, okay, this does not follow the injunction. We've taken those injunctions and updated them every term. So we can get really creative in the protection that we can offer survivors in civil court, or students can just come to us for legal consultation, and we don't have to do anything. It's completely up to the survivor of what she wants to have happen, but at least she understands what her options are. So I have a little plexiglass folder back there with our brochures, so that there's a number that you can pass around for people to call.
Okay, great, so we will know how to contact you then quickly too. Super, thank you. Okay, Jeannie, would you like to say hi, hello?
I'm Jeannie Latimer. I'm a therapist at the Counseling and Wellness Center. Desiree and I work together, and I'm really glad to see all of you out here today and taking an interest in this topic, which often we think isn't happening in a university population, but it is. And as Desiree said earlier, at the Counseling Center, we're able to offer individual counseling, couples counseling. Even if you have a friend that you're worried about, you can come and see one of our therapists.
Okay. All right, does anybody have any questions? And, we can take a few minutes for you to think about it and raise your hand. And you have such great resources here, so it'd be really nice to take advantage of it this grouping today. And, I have a question.
This is for Laura and Debbie, because I know we see a lot of students who come in who are victims of dating violence, and we will refer them to the victim advocate, but you always don't have to come through our service. So I was going to ask y'all to address if a student comes to you, what happens, what services does the victim advocate provide?
So we are a confidential resource as well as the Counseling Wellness Center is. And so we provide, our main two concerns are making sure someone is safe and then what sort of treatment they need. We do not force anybody to make a police report. We are housed at UPD. We do not force people to do that. And I want to make sure that's very clear. We are on call 24/7. 365 days a year, there's an advocate on campus available for anybody that needs one. So you can come to us either by calling the UPD number and asking to speak to an advocate, and dispatch knows that's fine. They don't ask a lot of questions. They will just make sure we get a hold of you somehow, find out your number and call you back probably. And or you can come to our office. We're usually there 8 to 5, although we're out and about sometimes. But we have an office number. You can call us. We have our pamphlets back there for anybody that would like to. So you can
helps folks file for inductions as well. We can help someone file which board if they like. We can help someone with safety plans. So a lot of these things a lot of us do in the community. But we just want to make sure everyone gets the help they need, no matter who it is. That's the main thing.
Does that kind of answer? Okay.
I have a quick question for Tina. I know somebody who's 99 pounds, a senior, and won't buy a gallon of milk because it's too heavy, half gallon is plenty. You really teach that person to protect themselves physically?
We've had in the women's program individuals as young as 10 or 11 and as old as 72. But it's really about you learning ways to prevent strategies, because self-defense isn't just physical techniques you do, it's preparation, making decisions about your safety, being proactive instead of passive when it comes to, am I going to go to this party? Am I going to have this drink? Am I going to stay with this group of people, or am I going to get myself to safety? But the other part of it is that we're trained that when we look at a male body, especially with a lot of upper body musculature, that's what strength is. That's kind of universal definition of strength. And the reality is that's not true at all. So we help women harness the vast amount of power we have in our mind using better technique than normal muscle. And so we can, absolutely. So she should definitely come to the class. You know what that is.
Okay, and there's so few of you. Why don't we just, the panelists can, start packing it in, and you can approach them individually and chat with them. I think that might work out better now because there's so few of us. They'll just take their time in departing and give you a chance to say hi, hello to them. Thank you for coming, and I have found this to be very informative. I want to thank our panelists all for their contributions. Thank you very much. And please help yourself to some refreshments. Don't be shy.